Plants speak, not in words, but in a language older than memory, a frequency of vibrations, resonances, and pulses that bypass our ordinary senses. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet from Kentucky, understood this language clearly. While his body remained still, his mind traveled across veils unseen, suspended between worlds. Between 1901 and 1944, this humble man gave more than 14,000 psychic readings, words that still mystify doctors, scholars, and spiritual seekers to this day. What did he uncover about these quiet, rooted beings that share our homes? What if what we pass off as mere greenery actually holds the keys to restoring the fragments of our souls? Close your eyes. Picture Virginia Beach in the 1930s. A modest wooden house near the coast, windows open, letting the salty breeze in from the Atlantic. Inside, Cayce lies on a couch, his breath steady, deepening as he enters an altered state. That day's questions concern healing, not just of the body, but of the unseen forces that Cayce insisted formed the foundation of our physical experience, the life energy. His voice, slightly lower than usual, spoke of a vibrational force that pulses within all living, growing things. Some plants, he said, function as conduits for specific energies that human souls need in order to realign. What was he really saying? Long before science began to document the bioelectrical fields within plants, Cayce spoke of plant consciousness, not as poetic metaphor, but as literal reality. In one reading, he described that the plant kingdom exists in a different relationship to time and space than we do. Their awareness doesn't resemble human thought, but manifests as frequencies that directly interact with our own energetic fields. Now pause. Imagine your soul, that intangible spark debated by philosophers for centuries, as an instrument fallen out of tune, and certain plants, placed with purpose in your space, could help restore your inner harmony. For Cayce, this wasn't theory, it was everyday wisdom. Let us begin with the ancient use of purification rituals. Rituals Cayce claimed to witness during his altered journeys. Bundles of dried sage releasing sacred smoke through the hands of tribal healers. Sage, Cayce noted in reading 1158-31, carries the resonance of purification, not just of the air, but of the energetic imprints that cling to rooms long after emotions have passed. Before scientists would confirm sage's antimicrobial power, Cayce had already described its ability to recalibrate the frequency of a place weighed down by sickness, anger, or despair. When sage smoke curls through the room, its oils, released through burning, briefly elevate the space's vibration. Low energies struggle to remain, like shadows vanishing beneath a brighter light. But Cayce added something often missing from today's smudging rituals: intention. The power of sage, he said, increases dramatically when guided by focused awareness. Have you ever walked into a room and felt heavy, unsettled, without any clear reason? Cayce believed that emotions, especially intense ones, leave behind traces in the energy of physical spaces. Sage, when used consciously, could dissolve these residues. In a universe where observation itself alters the state of particles, is it really that hard to believe that intention could shift a room's energy? What self-imposed limits might you be unknowingly reinforcing simply by dwelling in a space clouded with lingering energies? Now follow Cayce's vision to the lavender fields of southern France, the rolling hills of Provence. There, in his clairvoyant travels, he described seeing monks lovingly tending lavender. In reading 24573, Cayce explained that lavender's frequency resonates with the pineal gland, known in many spiritual traditions as the third eye. This small gland, centered deep within the brain, produces melatonin and has long been tied to intuition and higher awareness. Cayce taught that lavender serves as a bridge between everyday consciousness and expanded perception. Its subtle vibration quiets the rational mind while awakening spiritual senses. To those who struggled with meditation, Cayce advised placing fresh lavender near their sacred space, or gently applying its oil to the temples before sitting in stillness. Lavender's essence, he said, helped build a bridge between the logical left brain and the intuitive right, allowing deeper integration. the kind that births revelation. Today, studies show that lavender increases alpha brain waves, linked with calm awareness. But Cayce went further. He believed lavender touched the soul body, the energetic pattern that connects our physical form to higher spiritual realms. Have you ever noticed how certain scents instantly pull you into distant memories, or shift your emotional state in seconds? What if lavender, with its ancient aroma, became your ally in connecting to the divine? Now travel to ancient Egypt, where Cayce claimed a past life as a priest named Rata during the construction of the Great Pyramid. In the healing temples of that time, he described aloe vera placed near doorways, the plant of immortality, he said, both protector and healer of body and spirit. Aloe's thick, succulent leaves store water and life force, seen by the ancients as vessels of cleansing energy. In reading 1206-2, Cayce shared, "Aloe draws out what is harmful to the life force, not only through its substance but through its vibration." That capacity made aloe vera essential in homes filled with electromagnetic fields from televisions, computers, and other electronics, fields that Cayce believed disrupted the delicate energetic balance of the human system. The Egyptians, he said, etched aloe into temple walls not as art, but as symbols that held the plant's protective function even in carved form. Today's quantum physics proposes that information can be stored in energy. Could the ancients have sensed this truth without formulas, simply by feeling? What devices now surround you, perhaps interrupting your soul's natural harmony? Aloe, with its receptive vibration, might be more than a skincare staple. It could be a silent shield, preserving your inner peace. If this resonates with your soul, don't just listen. Start living it. Bring intention into your space. Share this message with someone whose spirit needs harmony. And if you're ready to transform your environment into sacred ground, leave a comment below saying, "I welcome the green wisdom into my life." Let us follow Cayce's vision further, across centuries and continents, into the courtyards of India, where Hindu devotees carefully cultivate sacred basil, known as tulsi. Revered in Ayurvedic tradition as an embodiment of the divine, feminine, tulsi was not just a plant but a living presence, a guardian of spiritual purity. In reading 38:2-31, Cayce referred to basil as the plant of spiritual protection. Its energetic field, he claimed, created a harmonious resonance that aligned human consciousness with higher truth. While Western thought viewed plants as passive, Cayce taught that tulsi actively shaped the emotional and spiritual atmosphere of a home. Its fast growth and generous foliage, he said, reflected universal principles: abundance, expansion, clarity, and grace. According to Cayce, the basil plant vibrated in tune with the heart chakra, anchoring divine love, while its roots drew spiritual energy downward, grounding it into the material world. This dual motion formed what he called a divine circuit, the integration of heaven and earth, spirit and substance. This teaching reveals a challenge central to the spiritual path: how to live with sacred awareness in the midst of everyday duties. Cayce's vision of basil showed that spiritual growth doesn't always mean escaping the world, but embodying spirit within it. He recommended placing basil near kitchens or food preparation areas, allowing the plant to infuse nourishment with vibrational energy. Positioned near doorways, it formed a kind of threshold, a soft reminder to remain spiritually anchored as one moved between external activity and inner stillness. What if the small, ordinary act of growing basil in your home could begin to close the artificial gap between daily routines and sacred practice? Now shift again to the serene stillness of a Japanese temple garden, another landscape Cayce claimed to observe in altered states. In shaded corners, white peace lilies bloom gracefully, their pure blossoms rising from lush dark green leaves. In reading 5648, Cayce described the peace lily as the vibration of balanced exchange, the rhythm of giving and receiving, the flow that defines emotional and spiritual maturity. Though Cayce never used the word feng shui, he spoke of principles that echo its teachings. He explained that peace lilies correspond with the water element, symbolizing intuition, emotional depth, and inner movement. Their ability to thrive in low light made them, in Cayce's view, a symbol of extracting wisdom from life's darker corners. He recommended placing peace lilies in households marked by tension or conflict. Their presence, he explained, helped bring forth what remained unsaid between souls. Today, studies confirm the peace lily's ability to remove toxins from indoor air. But Cayce pointed to something more subtle, the emotional atmosphere of a space. Just as the plant transforms chemicals into neutral compounds, he said, it could transmute emotional heaviness into opportunities for growth. Think about your own environment. Are there places in your home where unresolved emotions linger in the air? Conversations never spoken, pain never acknowledged? Cayce believed the silent presence of certain plants could begin the healing, not by force, but by vibration. Next, Cayce's vision carried him to the Mediterranean hills, where rosemary grows wild under golden light. In ancient Greece, students wore wreaths of rosemary around their heads during exams, believing it boosted memory. Cayce, however, saw this herb as more than a cognitive aid. In reading 2678-5, he referred to rosemary as the herb of remembrance, but not the kind tied to facts or information. He spoke of a deeper memory, the soul's memory. This soul amnesia, as Cayce described it, was the great obstacle of human life, our forgetting of divine origin, of spiritual mission. The physical world, with its noise, its distractions, its demands, dulls our awareness of who we truly are. But rosemary, Cayce believed, pierced through the fog, its sharp aroma acting as a spiritual catalyst. He explained that rosemary's essential oils stimulated a connection between the conscious and the superconscious mind, enabling brief but powerful moments of soul recognition. These moments, he said, were like windows opening. Suddenly, a person might remember their purpose, their path, their sacred potential. Modern research shows that rosemary enhances memory and cognitive performance, but Cayce was always pointing deeper. For him, rosemary didn't just help you think better, it helped you remember who you are. Have you ever had those moments? When something ordinary, a scent, a sound, a sudden stillness, realigned your whole sense of being? When you saw your life, if only for an instant, with radiant clarity? Cayce believed rosemary could invite these moments, not by creating something new, but by uncovering what's always been within. Finally, we reach a plant often overlooked, yet potent, the snake plant. Tall, rigid, sword-like leaves that seem to stand guard over any space they inhabit. Cayce described the snake plant in reading 1901-7 as a guardian of sacred space. What made it unique, he said, was its ability to transmute heavy, dense energy into life force, a kind of spiritual alchemy. Unlike most plants, the snake plant releases oxygen at night. Cayce saw this as a clue. The plant works energetically during dream time. Its form with long upright leaves created what he called energetic boundaries, filters that prevented outside emotional patterns from invading your own energy field. He recommended placing the snake plant near transition zones, doorways, hallways, or spaces between your work life and private life. For those who felt emotionally drained by constant interaction, Cayce suggested that this plant could help maintain spiritual sovereignty. Its message, like its form, was clear. Stay upright, stay strong, stay rooted in your own energy. NASA would later confirm the snake plant's ability to purify indoor air, but Cayce knew, long before scientific validation, that its deeper power lay in harmonizing chaotic environments into peaceful coherence. Have you noticed how certain spaces make you feel instantly grounded, while others exhaust you for no clear reason? Cayce believed that strategic placement of plants like the snake plant could help regulate the subtle architecture of your inner life. Each plant, to him, was not just biology, it was theology. Not just matter, but message. If you're beginning to see plants in a new light, don't stop here. Bring one of these sacred allies into your space. Feel their presence. Watch what shifts. Share this with a friend who needs grounding and comment below. I reclaim my sacred environment. Now that we've journeyed through the sacred knowledge of each individual plant, we begin to perceive the larger picture Cayce painted, a living arrangement of consciousness, woven not by chance, but by divine design. He spoke of 7 key plants: sage, lavender, aloe vera, basil, peace lily, rosemary, and the snake plant. Each one, he said, represented a unique spiritual function, and together they formed what he called, in one reading, a living mandala of alignment. This mandala was not meant to decorate a space, it was a functional grid of consciousness, a sacred order designed to support the soul's return to harmony. Each plant held a frequency, a message, and an action. Sage teaches the art of purification, of releasing what no longer serves the soul's highest truth. It clears the energetic dust that dims clarity and weighs down the spirit. Its smoke, Cayce taught, doesn't just cleanse a room. It reconfigures the space's vibrational signature. Lavender embodies the balance between mindfulness and surrender, the state required for spiritual insight to rise. It whispers peace to the rational mind and stirs the deeper currents of divine knowing, softening the barriers between the physical and the sacred. Aloe vera stands for protective love, the kind that absorbs harm without becoming bitter. Its energy offers refuge, shielding the inner life from the harshness of environmental and emotional toxins. Cayce saw aloe not only as a healer of wounds, but as a spiritual sentinel. Basil represents the sacred marriage between spirit and form, a plant that channels divine abundance into everyday tasks. Its vibrancy was a symbol of what Cayce called manifested grace. Basil to him was the teacher of sacred routine, the ability to see the divine in cooking, cleaning, living. The peace lily holds the vibration of relationship. It balances giving and receiving. In homes filled with conflict or silence, its presence gently nudges souls toward reconciliation. Cayce believed it did not merely freshen air. It helped process unspoken pain, converting it into spiritual potential. Rosemary is the call to remember, not facts or past events, but the memory of who you truly are, beyond name, beyond status, beyond the surface story. Cayce believed rosemary ignited a flame of recognition in the heart, stirring dormant wisdom from lifetimes past. The snake plant completes the circle, a keeper of energetic sovereignty. It does not plead or absorb. It stands. Like a spiritual warrior, it fortifies the threshold, ensuring what enters your space resonates with truth. Cayce saw it as a structural support for the entire spiritual system. Together, these 7 plants form more than a collection. They form a spiritual constellation, one that Cayce believed could actively support soul evolution in the modern world, not in theory, but in practice. He did not teach that simply placing plants in a room would magically alter your life. He taught conscious relationship, that the energy you bring to the plant determines how deeply its influence reaches you. You could place sage in your home and nothing change, or you could approach it with reverence, light it with prayerful awareness, and watch your inner world realign. This was the core of Cayce's spiritual herbalism. Not tools, not superstitions, but partnerships, a deep, ongoing interaction between human awareness and vegetal intelligence. He advised, speak to your plants, not as performance or fantasy, but as acknowledgement of their living essence. Plants are not decorative. They are not background. They are companions, messengers, midwives of remembrance. In a world so preoccupied with the artificial lights, artificial emotions, artificial meaning, these green beings anchor us back to something real, something pulsing and timeless. Something God-breathed. Cayce's readings suggest that modern humanity has forgotten a vital truth, that creation is alive. Not just animals, not just humans, but all of it. The trees, the leaves, the roots, the vines, all part of a massive, intelligent network, each strand vibrating with intent. The ancients knew this. Indigenous cultures preserved it. But in our rush toward dominance and control, we began treating the world as an object. Cayce reminded us it is a subject, not something to be used, but someone to be known. So what does it mean to live inside a mandala of soul harmony? It means your home becomes a temple, your plants become your elders, your stillness becomes your strength. Every breath infused with sage becomes a letting go. Every moment surrounded by lavender becomes a remembering. Every glimpse of rosemary, aloe, or basil becomes a subtle nudge. You are not alone. You are being guided back. This is not mysticism for mysticism's sake. This is returning to spiritual sanity. We don't need louder answers. We need quieter presence. And that presence begins with recognizing the holy architecture that surrounds you every day, asking only that you finally see it. This isn't just knowledge. It's a call to sacred living. What plant has been calling to you? Leave a comment below with its name and why you think it chose you. If this message resonated, send it to someone who needs to remember. Edgar Cayce's vision did not end with the placement of 7 plants. It reached into the very heart of what it means to be human, to live, to feel, to evolve. These 7 sacred allies, sage, lavender, aloe vera, basil, peace lily, rosemary, and snake plant, were not simply meant to heal the body or beautify the home. They were doorways, living vessels of intelligence, designed to help the human soul return to wholeness. He taught that these plants corresponded with different aspects of the soul, like strings on a divine instrument, and when brought into harmony, they didn't just purify energy, they rewired spiritual memory. They didn't just cleanse, they awakened. Cayce emphasized that the presence of a plant creates potential, but when we approach them with reverence, that potential is activated. Intention, he said, is the multiplier. To walk past a peace lily with indifference is to miss the quiet conversation it's offering your spirit. But to acknowledge it, even silently, is to begin a sacred exchange. His readings dismantled the modern view of plants as passive life forms. He portrayed them as conscious entities, beings that express soul qualities through scent, shape, growth, and rhythm. Not merely physical tools, but spiritual companions, what we call healing properties, he saw as echoes of divine essence. Cayce advised those incorporating plants into their spiritual practice to do so with humility. Ask permission before cutting. Thank the plant for its presence. Observe how it responds over time. This was not animism as superstition, but reverence as awareness, an invitation into deeper relationship. In this light, tending a basil plant is no longer just gardening. It's a conversation, a ritual, a microcosm of our partnership with creation. Now pause for a moment and truly consider. What might change in your life if you stopped seeing plants as background and started recognizing them as sacred messengers? How would your home feel if you treated it as a sanctuary? How would your breath deepen in the presence of lavender you approached with sacred intent? How might your clarity return if rosemary reminded you of your forgotten soul truths? What if these 7 plants were never meant to be trends or aesthetics, but ancient guides placed along the edges of your modern path? In his lifetime, Cayce warned against a world growing too enamored with machines, forgetting the language of life. And now, in a world saturated with noise, distraction, and artificial energy, these green companions still wait, silent, rooted, patient, for us to remember. This is more than design. This is spiritual architecture. Imagine a space in your home intentionally arranged, sage near the doorway, aloe near your devices, basil by your meals, peace lily where tensions linger, rosemary where insight is needed, lavender in your meditative place, and snake plant at your energetic borders. Cayce would call this more than decor. He would call it alignment. Each plant, when engaged consciously, becomes a spiritual frequency tuner, adjusting your inner world. When you light sage, you're not just clearing space, you're aligning with letting go. When you inhale rosemary, you're not just refreshing your mind, you're remembering your sacred origin. Together, they don't just shift the atmosphere, They reshape your relationship with reality. This isn't poetic fluff. This is embodied faith. A daily, tangible path to spiritual coherence. A practice of partnering with what God placed here long before us, and will likely remain long after we're gone. And here lies the ultimate invitation: to live as if everything is alive. Because it is. To live as if everything matters. Because it does. To live as if every leaf, every scent, every bloom has a purpose beyond its biology. Because its purpose is your remembering. In a world where most are seeking answers in noise and speed, this path calls for silence and presence. The plants do not shout, they wait, and in their stillness is the voice of God. Let the presence of sage remind you, release what you cannot carry. Let lavender teach you, trust the in-between. Let aloe hold you, you are protected. Let basil empower you, your ordinary life is holy. Let peace lily heal you, your relationships can be redeemed. Let rosemary awaken you, you have always known the way. Let snake plant guard you, you are safe to be whole. These are not passive pieces of decor. They are living scripture, written not in ink, but in chlorophyll and vibration. This is the green gospel, and the question that remains is, will you read it? Will you listen? Will you live it? You've heard their message. Now it's your move. Bring one of these plant allies into your home today, with intention, with reverence, with purpose. Comment below, I am ready to remember. Share this video with someone whose soul is ready for alignment, and subscribe, not just for more content, but to continue walking this sacred path with us, because the world doesn't need more decorations. It needs more awakened souls. Let your home become a temple. Let your life become a garden. Let your spirit remember its roots.